Okay, welcome. Hi. Oh man, this is not a usual stream time for me, but this whole beginning of this year is gonna be a transitionary period where I find a new schedule. So, how is everyone doing? We have mid-January. Time goes so fast. Welcome. Let me find some music. I always forget about music. What do I have? What fits? I don't know. Okay, that doesn't fit at all. I have like one other playlist that I have prepared because I am a pro streamer. Yay. All right. Welcome. So, what am I doing? This stream is going to be a test. This stream is going to be a whole bunch of things at once. Um so I was thinking I used to have a stream. That sounds like, oh no, everything is broken. Things went wrong. No, but I used to have a stream where I would design role playing games, TTRPGs live on stream, once a week, and that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. People came by and we had some discussions on playing and running and designing RPGs and such. It was a lot of fun. Um, and then here. And then I was thinking, well, this is nice and all, but there are some other topics I want to talk about. But then dedicating a second stream per week or like other streams per week, just talking about those things felt like a bit much, especially since I only stream 2 or 3 times a week. So that would be like all of the streams of the week filled with that. And while that in itself is not necessarily a problem, I want to play games and do those things because, uh I enjoy it. So yeah. Uh I was thinking, you know what? I could I could just have a general educational stream. Saying, all right, this stream now is just educational stuff. That's all it is. And sometimes I would talk about game design, sometimes I would talk about other topics that interest me that I have talked about on here. Uh Language learning or linguistics, music theory, maybe math. uh all sorts of things like that. So just have a general purpose talky educational stream. See how that goes, right? See how people like it. And that frees me up and says, well, yeah, I will still have a stream like that once a week, but I don't have to push myself to constantly say, oh, I have to design a game. Oh, I have to think of something again. No, I have to, I don't know, find new ideas. And over time that has become a bit um not exhausting, but at some point it's like I don't have any ideas. I now have to sit down and I don't know what I'm going to be talking about in terms of game design. I don't know what's going to happen. And I don't know if I can even come up with stuff, useful stuff on a whim like this for the purposes of a stream. So just like with gaming, where I say, okay, I might have a day of streams where I just say I'm gonna play games, but I don't know what games, and we'll just everyone will just be surprised, including me. So I could also say I will have a day of just educational talk, and I don't know what I'm gonna talk about. I might plan it at the beginning of the week, say, okay, this week I'm thinking about this topic, or that week I'm thinking about that topic, but it won't always be game design week on week. Um, it's still something I want to do, but right now, mm, it's I also want to talk about other things, and so that's point number one. Point number two is I am also doing language learning actively myself right now, and whoops, hold on, I just did that. Um, right, and I wish to learn or relearn and practice languages this year. Um, and as part of that, I want to talk about my process, I guess, and talk about what I do, talk about some of some of the things some of the strategies I use, some of the methods I use, mainly because I studied this. Quite literally, I have a master's degree in linguistics, specifically on adult. It's called adult third language acquisition, which probably doesn't mean a lot um, to people, but it's basically how do adults learn foreign languages, right? So that is what I focused on, and there's a lot of stuff floating around the internet, a lot of myths and misconceptions that I'm hoping I might be able to clear up and help out, because language learning is a big thing. A lot of people like to do it, but don't know where to start. And then they just find the next app, like Green Owl or so, and just go at it, and then don't make any good progress, and then get demotivated and stop, and it's sad. So I'm hoping I can help out with that and alleviate some frustrations, or maybe just answer questions. Um, some of the big unknowns that people might have concerning language learning. Ah, sorry about that. That was a sneeze. It's cold over here. It's or at least the past few days it's been super cold. It's a bit warmer today. Every now and then it's like, yeah, it's winter. It's supposed to be cold, but then we're hitting weather records, or like temperature record highs still, which, like, relatively speaking, aren't hot or even warm. They're just not as cold. Um so yeah, this is where we are right now. Hold on. Okay. So that's the idea for today. I did have a plan. I don't know if I can stick to it. I made this plan end of last year. And right now already I'm saying so many things have happened already, so many things have changed that I'm not 100% sure if I can stick to the plan. Um but I do want to try it out at least a bit. Um, it's just that right now there are other priorities that I have to worry about before I can dive into organizing my language learning plan. So the idea was I would like to learn or relearn, practice, review a lot of the languages I've learned. Um, but I I don't I never know when to uh dedicate time to language A instead of language B. And then whenever I'm learning language A, I'm like, but I also need to learn language B, C, and D, and then and so on, and so I can never be focused. And also, I'm never done learning. Right? I'm always learning a language and being like, oh, okay, I can express this now, but there's still 10,000 other things I need to learn. So I will never be able to get to the next language. What is this? Um, So to change that, I'm going to try a different method this year, or I'm hoping to be able to try a different method. The year is long until it isn't, and the idea is that I will switch language every 2 months. I'll spend the first 2 months learning a language, then the next 2 months learning a different language, and then I will yeah, just keep switching. So by the end of the year, I will hopefully have touched um six languages, and then I can tell, all right, do my language learning methods actually work? How well do they work? Should I try something else? Or I can just try different things with different languages, right? um and okay, and collect my ideas and thoughts, and actually have like practical experience where I can say, right, so this thing definitely worked, or that thing probably didn't work, or this thing was not a bad idea. I just have to change up my methods a little bit. Um, and yeah, so that's the idea behind this. Collect my thoughts, maybe put them all together in a big document and say, yeah, okay, so there's this method and this method, and when learning languages, I need to watch out for this and that. Um, Also, I just noticed music is barely coming. Okay, so that's the idea. Again, all of this is subject to change. All of this is uh, me trying things out, and yeah. So for January and February, even though it's already 2 weeks into January, um, for January and February, the idea was I will start by building a baseline. So I want to, like, I already speak Mandarin uh pretty fluently, but I am only semi-literate in the language. So I want to uh build that up, use this time to learn more, like learn reading and writing some more, practice that, enhance my vocabulary, because that is going to help with all the other languages I have planned for the rest of the year. Like there is strategy behind this. So I want to shore up my Mandarin, and then for the next two languages, I want to do two languages that I've already started learning a while ago. but just, on and off. So I haven't really gotten too much progress in them, and I uh I I've forgotten a lot because I haven't used them in a while and so on. But the two languages are Japanese and Korean. So these two languages, they're not actually related, but because they've had so much contact with each other over centuries, they have become very similar in terms of grammar. Um, and because they are right next to China, they also had a huge amount of influence from Chinese, including in vocabulary and such. So Korean especially, something like 70% of its vocabulary is Chinese loanwords. So if I know the Chinese words, and then I look at Korean, I'm like, oh, this is easy, right? I don't have to learn a whole bunch of new vocabulary. I just have to understand, this is a Chinese loanword. There's another Chinese loanword. Right? So things like that. A lot of this a lot of Chinese can help with Japanese and Korean, and then Japanese and Korean can help each other when learning. Um, and then after that is things like Taiwanese that I want to learn, which is a different language, but again, knowing Mandarin will help a lot. It's closely related. So that is going to, like, especially with like Chinese characters, knowing those is going to help with understanding what the heck I'm actually reading when I'm reading Taiwanese and such. Um, then Cantonese at the end of the year, which again, similar idea. It's a different Chinese language, but knowing Mandarin and then knowing Taiwanese is going to help. And then one more related-ish language. Again, not related as in it comes from the same root language, but related as in there's been influence is Vietnamese. So again, Vietnamese has a lot of Chinese vocabulary in it. Uh, and I don't know too much about it, but I have seen other people, other linguists talk about Vietnamese in relation to Chinese, and the grammar has the same very basic concepts. Um, which means if you know Chinese, learning Vietnamese is not gonna be a complete shift in gears. Put it that way, right? So, yeah, that's the idea. That's so using all of those languages to help each other out, to build up on each other, and to stay within the same basic area. And that is helpful. That is actually one strategy. If you are unsure of what language to learn, you just want to learn a foreign language. You can pick a foreign language that is very similar to one you already speak. Uh, so if you speak English, I don't know, maybe like German or Dutch can can be is going to be easier than something like Arabic or Turkish or Chinese or things like that, right? Um, because a lot of the basic concepts are the same. A lot of the vocabulary is shared. Like really, if you know English, you can guess or figure out so many German words. Um, it's gonna make it a lot easier. Uh, right? Instead of learning something that is completely different. Um, and then once you've learned the first foreign language, the second foreign language is going to be easier because you already understand how it works. Okay. Um, let's see. What do I have? Do I have it capturing this thing? Let's capture this thing. Let me go over here. All right. Um, hold on. I just thought, yeah, no, I just remembered. I need to write this down. I haven't actually finished configuring the chat box thing here. That's something I wish to do. Let me just put that down real quick so that I can remember that and work on it at some point. Um, that box there. Okay. Um, so we're back to our familiar. What is this? A beige board? A beige board, I guess. So, um, like I said, I am. I already speak Mandarin. I grew up with it, but and this is a concept that is kind of unknown, sadly, and there's not too much research about it compared to other forms of language learning. But basically, um, Mandarin, I speak it as a heritage language. So let's see. Which means I understand the grammar intuitively, but my ability to use the language, especially in terms of things like vocabulary and such, is more limited. So the idea here is that I will hold on. Open up. Is this? Ah. Okay. So the idea here is that I need some way of learning Chinese characters, practicing Chinese characters, but it's like I already know a bunch. Um and I didn't learn them systematically, right? So I didn't go through the Chinese or the Taiwanese school system, um, where you have a steady progression of learning more and more characters, right? I just learned them as I saw them in my daily life, especially now, as an adult. When I go through life, I just, oh, this character, I know this word, but I haven't learned the character yet. Learn it, and so on. And at some point, it's just very, very patchwork. So there might be some simple characters that I don't know, some commonly used ones, whereas there are some more complex ones that I know just because the word was interesting, or the context under which I learned it was memorable. Um and such. Like I learned the word for patrol, right? A patrol. And it's like I'm probably never gonna forget this because of the context of where I learned this word. But there are some other simpler words that I not right. Right? So yeah, I need some way of figuring out, okay, what do I actually know? Um, and what do I need to learn, and what should I learn first, and what can I put off until later, right? What characters and words are more common and more useful to learn now, and which ones are less useful to learn now because I might not encounter them as often. Um, so I've been trying to think of different ways I can find a list, I suppose, which is difficult because there are a lot of characters, a lot of Chinese characters, and going through the entire list like that, it's like, oof, gonna is yeah, it's just gonna be like it's kind of going through like a telephone book and be like, which person do you recognize in a way? Um, I don't know. That analogy was probably not great, but yeah, it is relatively boring, but also at some point you just ugh, what is going on? You can't focus on that anymore. Um, and the usually a lot of lists of Chinese characters you find are not ordered in a good way. It's another thing, right? So you go through and then you might encounter immediately find 100 characters that I don't know, but all of these might be super rare ones that aren't very used. So is it useful for me to find this out now? Or is it more useful for me to find out, oh, I don't know 100 other characters that I should learn now because they are used very often, right? So again, back to the same idea. Um, so I was thinking, you know what? The first step I'm going to do is hopefully going to kill two birds with one stone, and that is look over to Japanese. So you might know that Japanese also uses kanji, or they call them kanji, and in Chinese we call them hanzi. Same basic idea, right? Chinese characters. And in Japanese, the amount of characters that are commonly in use is a lot less. It's like 2,100 blah 58, something like that, some number like that. And they are called joyo kanji, so commonly used kanji. And uh, this is a list put together by the Japanese Ministry of Education or Department of Education, and every person going through the Japanese school system has to learn these 2,100 so and so characters. So by the end, when they graduate high school, the idea is that you know and can use these characters. And these are the only characters that people are expected to know, and these are the only characters that will commonly be used in writing and such. In all sorts, like in newspapers and novels and announcements on TV, blah, and so on and so forth. You'll only ever, well, no, you won't only ever find this set. You will sometimes in like older writings or more esoteric writings or more specialized writings, you might find other characters here or there, or in names especially, you might find other characters, but people aren't expected to know them, to have learned them, right? Because they are not commonly used, right? I believe there is a list, an expanded list of kanji, like I don't know what it's called, but it's like another list of officially recognized kanji by the Department of Education in Japan that goes up to like 5,000 or something like that. Um, I forgot. I checked this out years ago. Um, so those are characters that can appear again in things like names or in things like older texts um, that people might still encounter, but that are not like part of basic education, right? School education. School education is only this basic set of 2,000, and since they are commonly used, it's like okay, so you're likely going to find them, right? You're likely going to see them appear over and over again. And I was thinking I could I could just take that list for now and go through that list and see how many of those I already know. And uh, so if I learn that, chances are I'm gonna hit a lot of characters that are common in Chinese as well, and it's only 2,000, right? It's not a super huge amount. Um, and if I do learn them, I will learn commonly used characters in Chinese, but then later on, if I want to then go into Japanese, I will already know all of the kanji that that will appear in Japanese, and then I just have to uh like I no longer I know what to expect, and I know, okay, so Japanese uses this kanji for these words, so on, right? So that's the basic idea. Um let's go your is it 2136? 2136. Okay. Which is very much doable. Um let me see. Can uh I show this actually? Okay, but this is underneath Rita. Aha, there we go. So I found this website that actually orders these kanji by yeah, so they are broken down into grades, right? Ah, Kyoiku kanji and secondary school kanji. So that was the groups I will uh also separately collected the 196 kanji added to the list in 2010. So it's a little bit more. This puts it up to like 2,300 ish. But again, not not a huge amount. And it sorts them here in I guess in the order you're learning them in. Hi, Fee.
Hello there.
Hi, welcome. How are you doing? How goes? Nice to see you here. Um, going good. How are you? I'm okay. Uh, fighting a bit of a lack of sleep. I went to bed last night, stayed up way too long until something like 3 a.m., 3:30 a.m. And I was like, you know what? I should probably head to bed, turn off my lights, and then my brain was like, you know what would be fun? If we had thoughts for another hour or two. And then so I didn't sleep for that time. Uh and then and here I am. So hooray. So yeah, I hope you're doing better than me. Um Also we're talking about kanji and Chinese characters in general, so hooray. Yeah. Do you have any burning language learning questions? Now's your chance. Um so I was basically thinking about talking about language learning. Because I want to do it this year. I want to focus on it this year. Like actually get into it again after just months and years of yeah, every now and then I do a bit of it a week and then I stop. Um I should because I'm indeed trying to learn a language that's hard and I have no ability to concentrate. I mean, we can discuss. We can talk. You can ask your questions or whatever, right? That's what I'm here for. I studied this. So I am hopefully equipped to help you out with questions that you might have. Um, and yeah. So, what language? Which language are you trying to learn? First off, that's probably the most interesting bit. Also, my nose is runny. Hold on. Oh, Finnish. Nice. That is cool. Um, hey, Jess. Hello. Welcome, welcome. And also Rhubarb. Hi. Language discussion. Yes, yes, yes. Welcome, everyone. Hi. Yeah, we're doing some language learning stuff because I want to get into it more this year. And I was thinking, you know what? This this is not a co-working stream in a sense, but this is more like a how do I learn languages? What do I do? And if you have any questions, you can ask, right? Um because I studied this. I went to grad school for this subject. So uh I hopefully know a bit about language learning. Um Linguistics is so under it really is. It's such a fascinating topic that touches on so many other things about humans. Um, and it's like people don't like so many misconceptions. It's linguistics is one of the fields where there are a huge amount of misconceptions and myths floating around, more than many other fields, I guess. Well, except maybe history. I can see how there might be a lot of conspiracy stuff and such concerning history, but like linguistics is probably a close second. Um, the only other language I know at least enough to converse is ASL, which isn't verbal. Yeah, but no, ASL totally a valid language. Like sign languages are full on natural languages. So that is really really amazing. I do want to learn. I believe there is a Taiwanese sign language, and since I live here now, that would be the one I choose. Um, but yeah, that's also like yet another language to the list. Just keep adding to the list. Right now, I'm at like 14 languages. Um, so that's why I wanted to focus on it a little bit. I wanted to do linguistics in uni, but I ended up just doing diploma of Japanese because I couldn't commit to the time. Oh, I mean, ASL is amazing. Did you know? Yeah, definitely. Very, very good. People don't appreciate that language are like living beings that we have a symbiotic relationship with. That is a very good way to put it. Yes. But yeah, I mean, still, you know, that like getting into Japanese like that is a first step, right? Getting into a foreign language like that is a first step into linguistics. And then um if you have any linguistics questions, you can ask them as well, right? I'm here now. I don't have super much time. I do have to say I need to keep an eye on the clock. I have maybe until 1:30, 2 p.m. at the very latest. Uh Somewhere there, so another 2-ish hours. Lucy. Oh, hey, Lucifera. Hello. Hi. Welcome. Stop by to say hi. Hello. I appreciate that. I hope you're doing well. But it's soup's late over here. Oh, yeah. Okay, then definitely go to sleep if that's in the cards right now. Then yeah, I appreciate you stopping by, and saying hi. I'll be okay. Okay, okay, good, 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 good to hear. Um, but yeah. What did I miss? I just had to check in because it's been so long. Yeah, I mean I haven't streamed, so that's on my end as well. But yeah, thank you very much. Hello for saying hi. Um, What okay, I missed some chat messages. I first learned it when I was 6 since we had a deaf child and a hard of hearing child in my class. When it got to be the one I could take as an elective in high school, took all 4 years. Wow, that's cool. That is so cool. Yeah, that's amazing. Um and it always helps when there's like government support for sign languages, which is sadly not always the case. Like in Germany, German Sign Language was not recognized as an official language deserving government support until like this millennium, I think. I mean, this millennium is like 25 years already or 24 years. But still, that's really really recent all things considered, right? It's like early 2000s or something when the German government finally said, "You know what? German Sign Language exists and we should probably support it." Uh with our like education department and such. Um, so yeah, so now you can learn it in schools. Like it's not you can learn it in schools, but if you want to learn it or if you want to teach it, you can get like government support from it. Mostly means like money, but that's a good thing. And I think in Taiwan, Taiwanese Sign Language is also supported. Maybe like there are things like TV programs uh that that are like run by deaf people where they communicate in sign language um and teach sign language, right? So basically the people on screen use sign language and then it's dubbed over in spoken Chinese. But then you can see, okay, so this is how it works, and then they will say like, oh, the word for this in sign is this and this and this, and where does it come from? How do we use it, and so on. So there are programs like that here in Taiwan for Taiwanese Sign Language. So that's good. Um, but yeah, definitely a really cool thing. And very underrated, and also like the amount of misconceptions about sign language is too dang high. Um, but yeah, speaking of Chinese, yeah, my plan is to go through these kanji 136. Do they have? Oh wait, they had the extra list. Is it over here? Uh oh no, that is already the total. Okay, 2,136 is already okay. So they are included in this. So the idea is, um, I need to learn more reading and writing in Chinese. I need to learn more characters, and I need to find good lists that sort the most common characters from things like uh not easy, but things like what do school children learn first, right? Roughly in the order how school children learn them. Because I didn't go through the school system here. So which characters do school children learn in first grade, which do they learn in second grade, third grade, and so on and so forth. Like obviously once you get into higher grades, you don't specifically learn characters like this anymore, because by that time you're using the language and you just learn characters by using the language, by being outside and reading books, reading newspapers, reading street signs, anything, right? Subtitles on TV, etc. Um, but some sort of ordered list would be good because I want to focus first on characters that appear very often or that are more basic as in part of more words, rather than characters that I might never actually encounter in the wild. right? So I need some sort of list for that. I haven't been able to find a good one for Chinese characters. The problem is 99.9% of the time when you search things online for Chinese characters, any sort of lists, any like commonly used Chinese characters or uh language learning apps that focus on the characters, reading and writing the characters and such. 99.9% of the time, those apps are going to be for simplified Chinese. So the Chinese characters used in mainland China and Singapore and Malaysia and so on, right? Um, but that's not the ones I want to learn. That's not the ones that will be useful for me. I need to learn traditional Chinese characters because those are the ones that are used here in Taiwan and also Hong Kong. Um, but finding apps like that, finding lists like that is not easy. Um, there is a list of like the 5,000 most common Chinese characters, traditional Chinese characters on Wikipedia and such, but they are not sorted by frequency. They are sorted by stroke number. So you get all the one stroke characters, all the two stroke characters, all the three stroke characters. It's like, okay, this is a way of ordering them, but at the same time, I would prefer a frequency ordering, right? So eventually, sure, that list might be useful to test myself to see, do I actually know all these 5,000? But right now it's gonna be a lot of, I don't know this one. Is this one worth learning right now, or is another one worth learning right now? Right. So um this here is Japanese. But Japanese uses kanji. So Japanese here has because Japanese is a very big or a very popular foreign language to learn, there are a lot of resources for Japanese. Like, holy heck, there are so many resources for Japanese. Uh, like if you want to learn that, you are in, what is the word you use in English? I only think of the word in German right now. You, like you're in the land where the rivers are made of milk and the trees are made of honey or whatever. I don't know. Right? You have all of the choices open for you. You're in good hands? Yeah, that as well. um so uh and so in Japanese you have this list of, I just saw this 2136 kanji, which are the Joyo kanji, the commonly used kanji, right? And these are ordered. These are ordered, as you can see, not by stroke order, because you get some that have like quite a few strokes in here in the first set, but these are the ones that are, they're ordered, I guess, in roughly how school children will then learn them, right? And in order of frequency. Um, and so I'm thinking, all right, I want to move to Japanese eventually anyway. So it's not a bad idea to know which kanji are being used in Japanese. Um, and to at least know the Chinese meaning of them if they have one. And this is an ordered list, so I can take this as a substitute. It's not a perfect substitute, but it'll work. And it is, in my eyes, a more useful substitute than simplified Chinese lists. You also thought getting some Chinese children's books to use go off of? Um, yes, but the problem, the big problem with Chinese children's books is uh a lot of them have reading aids. So this is something unique to Taiwan. Let me hide this for a second so I can write. So in Taiwan, um when we have texts for children, like children's books especially. Um I have a bunch of grade 1 to 3 Japanese books for learning kanji and they're super useful. Yeah, especially since you know that these will be commonly used. And then you will see words with them over and over again. So the thing with with children's books here in Taiwan is yes, they all have the Chinese characters in them, but at the same time there is a reading aid. So for example, you might have uh uh like this. It's a bit messy, but right. So you have some sort of sentence over here, and then next to the sentence, you will have these things. Oops, that's wrong. All right. Uh, right. So these things are something that was created by the Taiwanese government way back when, as a way to write out the or sound out Chinese characters. So these things here on the side basically tell you how to pronounce each character. Um, and they are very, very useful when you're a child first learning things. But where I am right now, these are going to be a hindrance for me. Because when I then read, I will completely zone out or blank out the characters and only read the pronunciation guide, and that is going to be counterproductive. They did not give me those when I did a year of Mandarin. Um, that's because these are only used in Taiwan. China doesn't use them. Hong Kong doesn't use them. Singapore, Malaysia, wherever else doesn't use them. Right? They are only ever used in Taiwan. So if you're outside of Taiwan and you speak Chinese, you don't even learn them. A lot of people don't even know these exist. Right? This is only Taiwanese. Other countries like China uses Pinyin, where they use like Latin alphabet, the Latin alphabet, to uh spell out the pronunciations. Which there are so many systems of Pinyin, right? And all of them have it's always a compromise. Every system of Pinyin is a compromise. I hated Chinese not because of the language, but because I could not read a chunk of the kanji, but only in Japanese, which is not actually helpful. uh, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of similarities in meaning, right? If you know the meaning of a kanji in Japanese and you'll see the same hanzi in Chinese, you can, like, they will usually have a very close meaning, if not outright the same meaning. Usually, not always. Right? So it can help with understanding what's going on. Um, but yeah, it's not helpful if you actually want to read the text in Chinese. This is my problem right now when I'm reading Japanese. I'm the other way around. When I look at a Japanese text, I'm like, I can read all of these characters, but I'm reading them in Chinese. And so it's like I can get the gist of what is being talked about, but I I cannot this is not Japanese. I'm just kind of patchworking together something using Chinese and then some like verb endings using the kana and such. It's a big mess. Also doesn't help the monks sometimes did a poor job translating to Chinese when they came back from China. Yeah, that's and also that was done hundreds of years ago using like a different Chinese than what eventually became Mandarin. Um, so the like Mandarin becoming the main Chinese language nowadays is happenstance, but back then, like things like Japanese and Korean and Vietnamese and such, they had contact with people who spoke other Chinese languages, right? Which is very, very fascinating that in that Taiwanese really helps. So if you know Taiwanese and then you look at Japanese, how Japanese pronounces its characters, you're like, this is basically the same, right? So that's very, very fascinating. Um, it's like the meanings don't shift too much, but the pronunciations will shift quite a bit. Um, oh, there's an ad coming up soon. Okay, so I will not talk about this topic while the ad goes on. Hey, Isaac, how are you doing? Lower power indeed. Okay. Uh, let's do this real quick before the ad hits, and then I will head to the bathroom real quick, and then we'll come back and we'll talk more about Chinese characters and such, and any questions you have. So yeah, I will be right back. Yeah, get up, have a stretch, etc. All right, be right back.
Endure. In enduring, grow strong.
Okay. I'm back for now, but I'm seeing I broke my ad thing. Um ah I see what broke. Okay. Uh let me check. I need another cue for this. Uh so the warning just appeared that ads will appear in about 2 minutes. And they appeared during the ad. which is not supposed to happen. They are supposed to that warning is supposed to appear 2 minutes before the ad, which is why it's labeled ads will appear in 2 minutes. So I did something to break this timer. Uh Let me just check here on my streamer bot if I can fix that somehow. Okay, hopefully that works. All right, we're all back. Awesome. So, um, logged into FF14 to do the New Year's event. Everyone's so excited to see me. Oh, that's nice. But now I want to log out and play Infinity Nikki. And I feel bad doing a runner. Um, that's sweet. That is really cool. All right, where were we? Okay, right, yeah. So children's books. It's really difficult finding children's books here in Taiwan that do not have the sound writing sound aid, I guess. Pronunciation aid next to the characters. I found like one book um in a bookstore. Like I went to the bookstore, which is absolutely massive, and I was like, oh hey, let me check out the children's book section, the Chinese children's book section. And this problem just appeared everywhere. I was looking for storybooks, fairy tales, whatever, like non-fiction books, like books explaining physics for kids and things like that, right? This is super useful stuff. Or super useful vocabulary in there, probably. But all of it has this pronunciation guide. It's like, yeah, this is not gonna help me if I want to practice my reading and learning the characters, because I'm just gonna focus on these guides and not focus on the characters. Um, which is a big issue. So yeah. Um, in general, children's books are an amazing tool if you want to learn a foreign language. They are really, really good. Um, like they because they are written for native speakers, right? Children are native speakers. So the sentences and such they construct are natural, right? How a native speaker would tell them, how an adult would tell a story to a child. Um, but the vocabulary they use tends to be simpler. So you are more likely to know a lot of it, or you're more likely to learn very like commonly used vocabulary that's going to be useful for you. And children's books, as an added bonus, tend to have a lot of illustrations in them, which you can use to help you understand what's going on in the story, right? As an additional aid to get okay, there's this word I don't understand, but on the picture I'm seeing that they're all like getting onto a boat or something. So this word might have something to do with boat, right? Things like that. Um, and and so that's why uh yeah, children's books and children's TV shows or children's songs and so on are really, really useful. I use them. There's this one French TV show that I watch called Zoo the Zebra, Zoo le Zèbre, and it's a children's show, right? It is very obviously made for kids, and but like so the vocabulary they use is simpler. Oops. Um, and it deals with everyday things. So it's about this little zebra zoo that goes through adventures of like everyday problems with his friends, friends and family and such. And like they're nice stories, right? They're good stories with good morals in them and such. And each episode is like what 10 minutes. So it's very bite sized, right? I can just watch one or two episodes without having to think like, oh, I need to invest an hour into this right now, right? Um, and that show in particular has a 24/7 live stream, which uh, which is pretty cool as well. So I can just pop that on into the background and just have French tuning into my ear constantly, which is really good. Um, so yeah, that's good material. Children's stuff, children's books, shows, songs, whatever, right? Children's programming um, is usually a very good material to use um, for learning and practicing a language. Um, yeah, except here in Taiwan because you have this thing. It's very difficult to find books that don't have this, which is a bit sad. Um, yeah. So, all right, what was I talking about? I was talking about the Joyo kanji. Kill two birds with one stone, right? So this list, the reason why this list is better than simplified Chinese list for me is because um if I see a character in a simplified Chinese list, and there are so many simplified characters. Um, if I see a character in there that I don't recognize, I constantly have to think, do I not recognize this character because I don't know it? Or do I not recognize this character because it's the simplified version, but I know the traditional version of it? Right? So every single character in there, I will have to go, I'll have to second guess myself. Right? I will have to see, do I know this? Or do I not? And taking a list of, say, 5,000, the 5,000 most commonly used simplified characters, not every single one of them is going to be simplified, but a huge proportion of them are going to be, huge portion of them. Um, and then manually translating that into traditional, just so I have material to use, is is quite a bit of work. Um, and that is work I'm not willing to do right now. I'd rather look for other things that I can use. Um, which leads me to this, the Joyo kanji. And so the Joyo kanji, I mean, obviously Japanese uses a mix. Most of the characters are actually uh traditional characters. Some characters here and there are simplified, like this one right here. I click it. Yeah, this one right here is the simplified version. And then a handful more characters are specific Japanese simplifications that don't exist in either character set for Chinese. I believe this one is a yeah. This one is I think a specifically Japanese simplification. They even have the variant. So this is the traditional one, right? Which is good that they have it. Okay. Um, but it's gonna be far less intrusive than uh, a list of purely simplified Chinese characters. And I'm I'm gonna learn Japanese anyway as well, so might as well look through these because this is gonna be useful later on. Um, and yeah, so the idea is then to eventually go through all of these and to see, do I know it? Do I not know it? If I don't know it, to mark it down and then learn it. Hey Claire, hi. How's it going, Claire? How are you? I hope you're doing well. Um, yeah, no problem. Um, yeah, how's it going? Are you currently learning a foreign language, or are you planning on learning a foreign language? Right. This is your chance. Um, but yeah, it's I need to get a drink. Yeah, just talking about some language learning stuff right now. Uh, I'm well waiting on clothes currently in the washer. Ah, right, right. Um, but yeah, this is me talking about my plans. So eventually I will have to go through the list of like the 5,000 most common Chinese characters and use that and see do I know all of them. And then eventually I will have to learn all of those on the list. Um because something like 3 to 5,000 is the amount you need um to be able to move through life here relatively unhindered. Um you can go up to something like I don't know, I've heard numbers of 10,000, but that seems a bit high. 10,000 characters. That seems a bit high. Uh in my personal experience. So 5,000 I think is a good number. Um and that might sound like a huge daunting number. It's like, "Oh my god, 5,000 characters. How do you do that?" But really it's not um like it's not that huge a task because of how Chinese characters work, right? There's so many. Oh my god, there's so many misconceptions concerning Chinese characters on the internet. It's a bit sad just how many misconceptions there are. So there's like um let's go through some of those actually. So myth number one. Myth number one. Uh one character or one word, right? So the idea is every single word in Chinese has its own unique character for it. I've actually seen this one float around here and there, and that is not true. That is completely not true. If that were the case, you would need something like 50 to 100,000 characters, which is not doable. That's not a thing. Uh, that's and like that's no, just no. Um, in instead, like a lot of Chinese words, like sure, there are some words which are made up of one character, but the vast majority of words are made up of two or three characters put together, right? Not combined into one character, but just you say these two or three characters and they together mean a specific word. Um like examples. Let's have examples. Because why not? Why not? Why not you have examples? So we have this character, which means horse, and this character, which means something like car or cart, right? So we have ma che, ma and che, and what if we put these two together? What if we have a word that's both of these just put together, right? So we have not okay. This is whoops, and then another character over here, ma che, like this. If we put those two together, we get carriage, horse-drawn carriage, right? A horse cart, quite literally. We can have other characters. We can have this, for example. No, wait, it's this. Sorry, this character. Um, this character means something like uh, gas or spirit or energy. And how would you write that? Like T. Yeah. Um, if you put those two together, oops, you get car, right? So this is carriage. This is a car, right? Um, if you have this character, which means public, right? Gong. If you have these two and put them together, what is a public car? Gongche. What is a public car? It's a bus, right? So this is the word for bus. There is no single character, no single other word that means bus. If you want to say the word bus in Chinese, you say public car, 公车. That is the term you use, right? So a huge number of Chinese words work this way, where you combine two, sometimes three characters together. Some very few words have four characters and such, but two and three is the most common. And you combine them together and they form a word. So this is how it works. So you don't have to learn a new character for every word you learn. You learn a set of basic characters and then you combine them to put together new words. But and this is where the difficulty comes in. This is not a rebus like kind of deal. This is not. That's not the word I want to say. Captions. That is not the word I wanted to say. Rebus. How do you pronounce that? Rebus. Rebus. Essentially a puzzle where you put things together and you have to figure out the overall meaning. It's not that, because these combinations have fixed meanings. For example, if I take the character for fire, right? Actually, let me put like this. Horse means cart. This means gas or energy. This means public. This means fire. Right? What? And I put these two together. I get fire car. What the heck is a fire car? There are multiple possibilities what it could mean. Right? You could think of something like a fire truck, but it's not a fire truck. This word means train, because old trains were fueled by lighting a fire inside of them, right? So this is the word for train, and it only means train. It's not, oh, you put fire and car together, and depending on context, sometimes you try to mean train, sometimes you mean fire truck, sometimes you mean this or that, a car that is on fire or something. No, this word specifically means train and nothing else. Yeah, fire truck, exactly. Fire truck is a different word entirely. Fire truck is like a um there's two possibilities. You can either have like extinguish a building truck or car, or you can have a rescue and fire car. Right? Those are the two terms. So they have 消防车 or 救火车, right? Things like that. Which are the specific terms used for fire truck. Um, so it's not like you just randomly pick characters, put them together, or pick words, put them together, and then the other person, the listener, has to guess what word you might be referring to. No, these are fixed words, with defined meanings, and you put them together like this. But this means that there's not like 50,000 characters because there's 50,000 words or something like that. There's only a couple thousand that you have to know, like 10% of that, 5,000 characters or so that you have to know in order to build most words in Chinese. Um, Obviously, the more specific or precise or technical or so a nuanced a word becomes, the more likely it is that the characters used in that word only appear in that one word. That does happen every now and then. Um, or you might have a character that doesn't have a meaning on its own. It only has it's only combined with certain other characters to form some words, right? That also appears, right? So if you look up that word in a dictionary, that character, sorry, in a dictionary, it will tell you meaningless bound form, right? It'll give you the definition of meaningless bound form. That means this character has no meaning on its own. It is only put into words with other characters, and then that whole thing means a certain word. Um, that also appears every now and then, but most of the time, um, like this is how it works in Chinese, and these meaningless bound forms appear in English as well. Like, what the heck is a cran? What is a cran? How is a cranberry different from a strawberry? Right? How is cran different from straw? Um, if you look up cran, if you could look up that in a dictionary, it will also tell you it's a meaningless bound form that only ever appears in the word cranberry and nowhere else. Right? So that also happens in other languages. Um, in fact, very funnily, that thing is called a cranberry morph. Morph meaning part of a word or like word carrier, a meaning. Um, and it is these meaningless bound forms that only ever appear together with other words but have no meaning on their own. So that also appears in Chinese, right? Where you have these things. Um, and usually they appear in more technical or nuanced words or more specific words, um, and such. And it's like most of the time, the characters that you put into a word are related to the overall meaning of the word, right? Right here, like horse car is a carriage, gas car is a normal car, public car is a bus, fire car is a train, and so on. And so, if you don't know a word, you can look at its constituent parts and usually come very close to guessing the meaning. Maybe not the exact specific meaning, maybe not all of its nuance, but you can guess like the general idea of what this is trying to express. Um, so that's Chinese characters. So that's like okay, which means I don't have to learn a new character for every single word. I just have to learn a couple thousand instead of a couple 10,000, right? Several myriad. Um, so that's what makes learning Chinese easier in the beginning, right? And this is something that's not really shown. Right? There's a lot of like, oh my god, like a lot of videos or people trying to say, oh my god, Chinese is so easy, da, da, da. And then they don't talk about stuff like this. They only talk about, oh my god, Chinese characters are all pictures. Ah, ha, 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 it's so easy. And that's also false. That's another myth, right? Chinese characters are not pictures. Um, some of them come from pictures of things. Something like between 2 and 5% of them do. But the vast majority of them don't. So it's these like people. It's like perpetuating these myths, trying to lure in new students and like, oh my god, learn Chinese, it's so easy, you're just drawing pictures. And then they actually start learning Chinese and you surprise them with like, oh no, actually it's not the case. And what are you doing? Why not just come up front and say, yeah, Chinese is not as difficult as many people think, but not because of the reasons people think, right? Um, so I don't know. I don't like it. There's there's this one group called Chinesey, like literally this the Chinesey. That's how they call themselves, and they released a book and an app and everything. And they go this approach. They go with this approach. They say, "Oh my god, Chinese is so easy!" And then it's basically a picture book with like a handful of characters that do come from images, that do come from drawings. And it's like, look at that! Isn't that so easy? And it's like, yeah, but there's not a lot of characters that are like that, right? And then once you run out, that's it. You have to confront people with the truth, and it's I don't know. I don't like this kind of marketing. It's based on false advertisement. Um. So yeah, myth number two: Chinese characters, but characters are drawings. They are not. They are characters. None of them nowadays are drawings, right? They are all characters, but some of them do come from drawing. Some of them are simple ones, right? Things like horse that we had up here. Things like the car that we had here. Things like fire over here. Things like wood that used to mean tree. See, it doesn't even mean tree anymore. It used to mean tree. Nowadays it means wood, right? So this used to be a tree with like the branches and such, right? And then you can kind of see where that comes from. This is very obviously some sort of carriage. Right? This is like I don't know how to draw a horse, but these are like the legs and the tail and like the mane, right? And this is like two logs and then the fire up here, right? You can see, yeah, these come from drawings. But again, somewhere between 2 and 5% of all Chinese characters come from drawings. Um, the vast majority of characters employ something called they are phono-semantic compounds, and this is what makes learning Chinese characters easy. If Chinese characters were all drawings, eventually you'd run into things like, how do I draw abstract things, right? How do I draw truth? How do I draw despair? How do I draw meander, right? And how is meander different from ambulate, different from walkabout, right? How do I draw those things? And then how do those drawings become characters? It becomes mind-numbingly complex of like at some point you will have so many characters that just look more and more strange or more and more alike or both just because you're trying to fit a drawing to a more and more precise word. It doesn't work like that. Um, so instead, you have Chinese characters that are a phonosemantic compound. So phono for pronunciation or sound, and then semantic for meaning. And the vast majority of Chinese characters, something like 80%, 85% of Chinese characters function like this. So they have one part that indicates the general meaning, and one part that indicates the pronunciation. So, for example, let's take for the semantic portion, let's take this thing. So this thing here means gold, right? Gold. Um, and it is used in a lot of other words that have something to do with metal, right? So, for example, we have oops, this character over here, which is pronounced Hong, which means same, right? It means same. Yes, exactly. Very good, right? And then if you put these two together, right? Rhubarb already put that into the chat. Very good, right? So you get this on one side and this on the other side. So this, what this character means is it's a word that is related to gold, but which is pronounced like tong, right? So this is also pronounced tong, and it means copper because the word for copper is pronounced tong. So a word that sounds like tong but has to do with gold or metal is copper. It's a bit difficult. There's a bit lost in translation here, right? But you have to realize you learn the word first. You learn how the word sounds first before you have a character for it. Right? The words came first, the characters came second. So people were like, so we have this word tong, right, with a meaning of copper. How will we create a character for this word? Well, it has to do with gold. It has to do with metal. So let's take that and let's indicate how we pronounce it by using another simple character that we pronounce the same way. Right? It's to have a very, very, very crude English example, if that works. So, say I have, um, what is this? I have a character or person in English, and I have a character for. Whoops, that's a different color. I have a character for sun, right? As in the thing in the sky. And if I put those two together, right? So I have a character that kind of looks like this, right? Same idea. One part is the meaning, the other part is the pronunciation. So I get a word that sounds like the word sun in the sky, but means something with a person. Well, son, a male child, male offspring. Right, so this, you have to imagine this is how it works. This is how the system works. Because this sounds the same as this word, but the meaning is person. Right? So this is a very, very crude example of the thinking behind it. And so a huge, huge number of Chinese characters work this way. So basically, it's you see a Chinese character, and you realize, okay, this has to do with metal or gold, or this has to do with plants, or this has to do with a person, or this has to do with walking, or this has to do with fire, or this has to do with, I don't know what else is there. Uh an animal or a hand or something like that, right? And then you look at the other part and say, okay, and the pronunciation is something like this. What is a word that I know that sounds like this but has to do with metal or hands or an action or walking or fire or something, right? And that is how you recognize these characters. And so many times also when you see these kind of the phonetic compound, you can say, all right, a lot of the pronunciations are probably going to be very similar. Not 100% similar because Chinese characters are like 4,000 years old. Um, and there has been a shift in the language. There have been a lot of shifts in the language, right? So it's not a perfect 100% match. But more often than not, you will be right, right? Um, Sometimes the phonetic compound, if the character is on its own, we pronounce it one way, and if it's part of another character, we pronounce it a slightly different way. Um, so that kind of happens. Um, but it's usually close enough that you can get it right. Um, so and you will come to recognize these compounds, right? So I have um I don't know, I might have this character, and then I can have it in a compound like this. I can have it in a compound like, wait, does this one exist? I don't know, but I can have it in a compound like, is this one? I think like this. I can have it in a compound like this, etc., etc., etc. And then you will always say, "Oh, ho, ho, ho! I know this dude. I know this thing. It's right here, right here. It's right here, right?" So you're not learning something completely new with every new character. You're like, "Oh, if you know this thing right here, all of these characters you already halfway know them, right? It's just the same thing over and over again." And then, okay, this one has something to do with metal. This one has something to do with farming. This one, the meaning has shifted, but it used to have something to do with brass, right? And so on and so forth, right? And it's it makes learning Chinese characters a lot easier. So it's not, if I say there are 5,000 characters, I don't mean there are 5,000 completely unique, each on their own special person characters. I mean that 80 to 90% of them are made up like this, of these parts, and then you're basically learning the parts. And later on, when you see a new character, you're like, hey, I already know these two parts. I've seen them in a whole bunch of other characters. This is just a new combination of them, right? Um, so that's right. So you can have something like this character, which appears in something like this, um, and then all of a sudden you see, oh hey, this character is also a thing, right? I already know this dude. Now this dude has something to do with metal. Okay, right? And indeed it does. And so this is Lu, right? And this is also Lu, which means aluminum, because that's the word for aluminum, Lu, right? So it's like, oh hey, awesome. And that, if you told people, oh yeah, there are several thousand Chinese characters, but it's not like several thousand completely unique characters. It's like 4,500 of those are these kinds of combinations where you're really just learning the constituent parts, um, which means you're not really learning 5,000 completely unique characters. You're learning like, I don't know, 2,000, of these parts and then just combining them in new ways. Sure, again, like with the words up here, every combination has a fixed meaning, right? Um, like this word over here means clock, and it has no other meaning than clock. Um, so it's not like, oh, a character that sounds like this Chong, right? Uh, and has something to do with metal. Oh, what could it be? Right? There are many possibilities. No, no, no. This character means clock, and it only means that. Right? So similar as with the words above, how fire car means train, you have to know this means clock. But like it's eh. The character in itself is not gonna be super complex. Because you already know the two parts. Right? By the way, this thing is called
Updated my
Zhong,
journal.
right? Zhong. Um and you're just learning this new combination. Welcome. Thank you for the follow. Hi, welcome, welcome. Follows are anonymous. Um, just yeah, just so you know. But thank you. You're welcome to lurk or welcome to chat. Welcome to announce that you followed if you wish to. Right, anything is okay. But thank you very much. Um, yeah. So that's our drawings. I just okay. So that's how Chinese characters work. So, like I said, 80 to 90%, depending on how you count and how many characters you put into your data set. Like how do you put in old characters? Do you put in variant characters? Do you put in uncommon characters? Things like that. Depending on how you count and so on, the numbers are have a bit of a leeway, but somewhere between 80 and 90% of characters function like this. Whereas drawings are something like 2 to 5%, right? Um yeah. So it's much more useful to understand that Chinese characters work like this than it is to understand that Chinese characters are drawings because they're not. The vast majority are not. Um right? Um so yeah, that's how they work. Um and this is what makes learning Chinese characters much simpler and much more systematic than uh than people might imagine. Which is why when I say, oh yeah, there's a list of 5,000 characters and I should learn them at some point, I'm not worried. I'm not like, oh my god, 5,000, that's gonna take me 5 years. No, because of this system. And like the more characters you know, the faster you can learn new characters because you will know a lot of these parts already. Right? It's uh it's like let me look up something. Uh well, let me look up, see if I can find this on this dictionary. Um yeah. So there is a character that looks like this, right? And you go, what the heck, right? What is what is going on here? But then you look at other characters and you go, well, hold on. There's also this thing, and my writing's a bit messy. And then there's also this thing, and there's also things like this thing, and there's also uh, this one over here, and I'm writing upwards. I don't know why, right? And there's and so on and so forth, right? And you go, well, what is all of this, right? And how do I read them? Well, this character is read E. Write it like this apparently. E, right? Um, are all these pronounced E? Well, kinda. This one is also pronounced E. This one is pronounced E. This one's a bit different. This one is called Xi. This one changed a bit, but this one is called E. So it's like more often than not, you will be able to get the general pronunciation of these characters. And it's like, oh hey, I see this fellow here. And when you're learning these characters, you just have to know, oh yeah, it's just this dude over and over again. Right? Once you know this one, these other characters are not 100% new. You can build on previous knowledge. And heck, even this character is built up of this thing and this thing, which are characters. Right? So it's like eh. Well, technically this character is like this. The bottom is cut off when you combine it, but same idea, right? Um it's like, oh hey, I already know these, right? So it's all built up of simpler parts, and that makes it a lot easier. And that's also why um I'm going to stay away from simplified characters for now, because in simplified characters a lot of this is removed. A lot of the simplification that they did is to take all of these phonosemantic compounds and just take them apart and only have them as the phonetic part. Right? That's hello. So, for example, one very notorious, infamous example is in traditional Chinese. You have these two characters. You have uh, this one, and let me get the correct colors. You have this one. So this character is pronounced mian, right? It means face or surface. And this one is the character for wheat. And then if you combine these two, you get the character for noodle, because noodles, hello, have to do with wheat, right? They're made of flour usually, and they're pronounced mian, right? So it's, I think you might put it on the second one, doesn't matter. Right? So this is the character for noodle. In mainland China, in simplified Chinese, the character for noodle is this. It's the same character as face or surface, right? So they just take away this part and only leave this part. So that takes away some etymological information. That takes away some of the recognition of, oh, this character is noodle. You now have to look more into the context of what is being said, right? Whether this character means face or whether this character means noodle or something else, right? And it leads to a lot of very, very funny machine translation errors, because like flour is mian fen, meaning meaning powder, right? So fen is also a phonetic phonosemantic compound, right? Rice plus fen, right? Like this. So rice plus fen. So when we see this in traditional Chinese, we see, okay, yeah, this means flour. Whereas in simplified Chinese, I believe they still keep the same character here. but they use this character for noodles. So when you machine translate this, a lot of noodle stores or things like that, baked goods or anything with like flour and such, um, a lot of the English signage they have will say something like facial powder. If you look up like machine translations from Chinese to English and then signs like store signs and such, a lot of them, or in supermarkets, a lot of them will say things like facial powder, and what they actually mean is flour. But because they simplified this character, the machine, like the computer, cannot tell if it means face or if it means noodle, and it goes with face as the meaning because that is the basic meaning of this character, right? Um, so that's one of the big difficulties in learning simplified Chinese is that a lot of this additional information that is encoded in the characters has been stripped out, and it makes the characters overall like each individual character becomes simpler, but I think there's a lot of context lost that you can use to help out, right? Especially as a foreign language learner, as a native speaker, right? You already know all the words. That's not the problem. You already know all the words. You can already identify all the context, um, and you're really just putting symbols to sounds that you are speaking and you already understand. But as a foreign language learner, you lack the native level ability for at least in the beginning, um, to know a lot of words, to understand context, and to figure out what is being said just from the spoken words alone. And then if the writing system comes along and says, yeah, noodle and face are the same character, then you go, wait, what? Right? That's like the danger that I see. So with traditional characters, you will say, yeah, no, you can clearly see where this character for noodle comes from. It's this pronunciation and this meaning. Um, and I feel like that can help give more context to foreign language learners of Chinese. And it is much easier to switch from traditional to simplified than the other way around. Right? Usually because a simplification takes away part of the character, and then you can say, okay, but this part still remains, so it's probably this character that they're talking about here. Whereas the other way around, you add something more, and then you go, wait, what is this new character? What is happening here? Right? So I feel like if you want to learn Chinese, learning traditional characters might be more helpful in the long run. And it's also the set of characters used in Japanese, mostly, and things like uh, when Korean still uses Hanja, um, here and there, they also use traditional characters because that's the ones they took hundreds of years ago. And other languages that might have Chinese characters appear here and there, things like Vietnamese, um, are also more likely to use the traditional versions because, again, hundreds of years ago, that's the ones they took, right, to write their own languages with. So it it aids in a broader context than the simplified characters do. I feel like, um, and as a personal bias, completely personal bias, I do think that traditional characters look better. They look prettier. That's completely personal thing. All right, so that's like the two big myths of Chinese characters. So really, there's only two. There's only like 5,000 ish characters that you need for everyday usage instead of something like 50,000, and most of them are uh, composed of multiple simpler parts that you can then use to help you understand what the characters are. Um, okay, the ad is gonna start in about a minute. I think my ad timer thing is just broken again completely. Um, I don't think it'll be fixed this stream. I might have to check next stream if it's still broken. All right. Um, what's the time? It's almost 1. Mm, I'm thinking. Let me. Okay. I don't have a lot of time actually today. So I still have something to do later on in the afternoon. I need to get ready for that. So I'm thinking I might call it here. 2 hours, bit of a shorter stream on my end usually. Usually I go a bit longer. But this was an experiment. I think I might do this more. We snooze once more. I think I might because I'm gonna learn more languages throughout the year, and some languages I already know. I've learned a bit. Some languages I'm learning completely from scratch. So that's probably possibly also interesting to see how I approach language learning and how languages work, right? How they are set up, how they are composed, what parts they have, how you can organize it and use that knowledge for your to your advantage when learning. Um, so that might be something I will do more of in the future as well. Yeah, so let me move here. Okay. Uh, but for now, I think I will call it. Um, yeah, I hope this was interesting. I hope you got a bit of something out of this. I hope I was able to show you that there are a lot of myths and misconceptions floating around in language learning as such, and that you know, uh, it's like language learning doesn't have to be this huge, insurmountable mountain or labyrinth, but rather you can actually organize it and break it down into manageable chunks. So that's definitely something I will get back to. All right, let's see. Um. Oh, hey, let's go say hi to Isaac. Isaac was on here earlier. Might still be lurking, which will be funny. So let's go say hi. Ray, Isaac. Hi, Isaac. Who is currently playing Disco Elysium. Ooh. All right. So also a role playing game, right? Something that is very common here on this channel. Very a big topic, a big recurring theme. All right. So yeah, thank you all for coming. This was an interesting experiment. This was a fun thing to see, and yeah, I think I'll definitely do more of this in the future. I'm still working out a schedule. I'm still working out things to stream. Um, but yeah, I will hopefully slowly converge into a more regular streaming schedule. There's some things I need to take care of that are a bit on a deadline. But yeah, until then, thank you all so much for coming here. I appreciate it all. Thank you for the follows. And yeah, stay hydrated, take care, and bye bye.